Keep trying. Yes, I say, my heart hammering so hard against my ribs they feel bruised. The microwave slides over the counter as Brooke manipulates the object's gravity. She lifts it into the air and throws it at the man's head. He tries to dart out of the way, but he's too slow. It hits him with a dull thunk, and he falls to the ground, unconscious. Evie's microphones pick up the metallic clang as the microwave hits the tiled floor. Others would have heard it as well. "What do I do now?" Brooke asks. "Can you use your powers to cut the rope?" I ask. She shakes her head. "I can't be that precise." A shadow enters the hallway behind her. I think for a second. "Okay, break the chair." She nods and focuses until the chair cracks and she falls free. She quickly unbinds Ella. "Now what?" I scan the house. The door outside is blocked by their father, and the other man is heading to the kitchen. Maybe the downstairs windows. Not enough time. "Head upstairs and lock yourselves in a room. Hurry!" They race upstairs to their bedroom, and the tall man, the one with the tattoo, maybe Apex himself, follows, speeding up into a sprint. The black snakes on his coat flash past the downstairs window, hissing at me, and I hope they can't communicate with their master. The big man Brooke knocked out starts to regain consciousness. I hear a thud and slam. "We're in our room!" screams Brooke. "He's breaking down the door!" There's muffled crying in the background. Ella. And then more slams. I give them the next set of instructions. "Open the window and climb out. You'll have to jump to the tree and climb down. Can you do that?" Brooke says yes, but I can hear Ella breathing heavily. She's scared. They both are. I feel impotent, stuck outside, hiding behind bushes. I can see them crawling out. Ella doesn't follow quickly, and I bite my tongue, resisting the urge to yell at her to hurry. They don't have much time. Another slam, and the man with vipers emerges at the window. Ella screams, and she slips, falling the last bit of the way and twisting her ankle. Brooke grabs her and helps her stumble toward me. "Hurry!" I say. "Hurry!" The man sees them running toward me and jumps out of the window with the reflexes of a cat. He runs after them, mud splashing under his boots, and they stumble to me. They have the lead. If they can move faster! But they can't. They're slowing down. "Brooke, what's happening? You have to run!" "I can't move." Her words slur, and I see them both slump to the ground, as if drugged. I'm frozen, unsure what to do. The tall man approaches them, the snakes on his coat hissing in the cool air. He shakes his head and speaks into his e-glass. The big beast of a man comes out of the house and joins him, picking up both girls, one in each hand. I can't help it. I run out of the bushes to confront them. I can't let them take my friends. "Stop!" I scream, staring straight into the dark eyes of the man with snakes. His coat, his tattoo, are permanently imprinted on my brain. I make a special room just for them. He walks toward me, a smile on his thin lips. "Be glad we are not here for you," he says, holding his hand out to me. He wears a ring with the apex crest upon it, and from the ring emerges a small blade. He cuts my hand with it. It doesn't hurt right away, but it bleeds, and my head gets fuzzy. He seems far away now. He sounds like he's talking through water. "Go to sleep, girl." I feel the poison infecting me, killing me slowly as I fall to the ground. "I'll find you," I whisper with my last breath. His laughter is the last thing I hear before darkness takes me. Chapter 6. Ashes. The deer stretches its lean neck to the fresh grass, grazing on lunch as the sun warms its taupe, says Evie, coat streaked with white. The scar on my right hand itches, but I ignore it as I pull my bow and aim my arrow at the deer's heart. I take a deep breath, steady my arm, hold my gaze, and release on the exhale. The arrow shoots 20 meters through the field, striking the ground next to the deer's leg. It startles, its large eyes darting around as it leaps into the air and runs off, its lunch forgotten with the impending death threat from an unseen assailant. I curse under my breath and sprint to retrieve my arrow. My dad waits in the brush for me to return, his face gentle and steady. "You're not focused," he says. "I don't like killing." "I don't either, Star." He preps his own bow and stands, his body motionless. Another deer appears, oblivious to the short breath of life it has left. His aim is true, and the arrow impales the creature's heart, killing it instantly. I cringe. That poor animal didn't have a choice in this. It woke up this morning believing the day would end with another sunset. Instead, its life ended with an arrow to the heart. I've learned to track. I've learned some basic wilderness survival, how to use a bow and arrow, and my hacking skills are already at an expert level. I have not learned to kill yet. I scratch at the scar on my hand. My parents insist the poison that nearly killed me is no longer in my system, but I can feel it, just under the surface, aggravating my skin. My dad stitched me up. It only took 3 to bind the wound, but recovering from the poison, that took months. I nearly died a few times, according to my parents. When I finally broke free of the fevers and nightmares, Jax was there, pale, frightened, too skinny, as if he'd been the one sick. He had postponed his training to stay with me. My mom later told me he was there by my side every day and every night, holding my hand, reading to me from my favorite books, talking to me in whispers throughout the long nights. They had to force him to eat and sleep. A month later, he finally left for training, only returning for summers. From time to time, he'd show me the martial arts and tactics he was learning, and we'd laugh like we used to. It's been 3 years. I'm finally a teenager, but I still feel the evil that Apex infected me with. My dad pulls the deer into the bushes with us. We would normally go home now and skin it, but I know he wants me to make a kill. "Star, this is necessary. The future is uncertain in the best of times, and we do not live in the best of times. The greatest gift I can give you is the ability to survive and feed yourself and others. Just clear your mind and focus." We wait, and it doesn't take long for another deer to cross our path. This time I'm ready. I don't clear my mind like he suggests. Instead, I paint a new target over the innocent deer. He wears a snakeskin coat and a black hood, and has a tattoo on his hand. He has a ring that kills. He is Apex, leader of those who traffic zeniths, the man who kidnapped my friends. I've spent the last 3 years trying to find them. I haven't succeeded. Yet. But I will. I loose my arrow and the man falls to the ground, dying. I walk over to examine my kill. It's no longer a man. Just a deer. But this deer will help feed the poor in our town for weeks. A hunting license is a rarity in our kingdom. I still don't know how my parents got one. Using any kind of weapon is strictly forbidden if you aren't with the domus or an order. We aren't allowed guns to hunt, even with a license. But you can do a lot with a bow and arrow. Especially if you can hit a moving target. And so I will build my skills. I will become lethal. And someday that arrow will pierce the heart of evil. This is my first kill, and my first time gutting and skinning an animal. It's a messy business that leaves me feeling slightly nauseous and tempted by a vegetarian diet. My dad pulls out his tools. A 4-inch blade, gloves for each of us, string to secure the bladder, urethra, and intestines, towels and baggies for the heart and liver, plus game bags to store the meat. We do my deer first, dragging it into a clearing and laying it on its back. First, cut along the anus and free the anal tract from the hide and membranes that hold it to the pelvic bone, my dad says, handing me the knife. Evie, I say into my e-glass. Yes, Scarlet? Is there any chance you could do this part somehow? I'm sorry, Scarlet, but I am not equipped with a physical form. You'll have to suck it up and do it yourself. My dad guffaws at Evie's response. When did she learn that? Last week I tweaked her humor and emotion calibration. I might have to lower it a bit. She's getting too snarky for my liking. She sounds like you, he says. Exactly. Too snarky. He laughs as he guides my hands and I cut into the body. The knife is sharp, but it's not easy to cut through flesh. My hand aches as I push harder. Careful, he says as I pull out the freed anal tract and tie a string around it. You don't want to spill any of that and contaminate the meat. Yeah, that's not the only reason I don't want to spill deer crap all over myself, I tell him. He laughs. I'm not laughing. We then turn the deer on its side downhill and let the guts fall out. It's as glamorous as it sounds. When my dad guides my hands into the cavity near its spine to cut off the fat holding the intestines in place, I swallow bile and feel beads of cold sweat break out all over my body. I almost cut too hard and nearly pierce the bladder when my dad's hand pulls mine back. Next, we cut off the diaphragm to remove the entire intestine and then remove the heart and lungs. I am dripping in deer blood, but the horror isn't over. We now have to string the deer upside down from a tree and skin it. We repeat this process with my dad's kill, and it's dark when we finally head home with our meat. Another family my parents work with will butcher it for our community. It's a small way we try to give back and help those who are starving. There was a time we thought we wouldn't have to help, because the war was over. We thought things would get better. And, in a way, they did. But not for the plebes. Only for the Pats. To them, we are still those who serve, and we deserve no more than scraps. I'm ready for a long shower, then a longer bath, then another long shower. By the time we get home, I strip out of the top layer of blood-soaked clothing before entering the house. My mom is pacing, her e-glass on as she speaks rapidly to someone on the other line. Her face is pale and her movements are jerky, nervous. When she looks over at us, her eyes are filled with tears. My mother never cries. My throat goes dry as my dad takes 3 long steps to reach her, putting a hand on each of her arms as if to steady her. What's happened? He asks. She looks at me and then at him. Jax is badly injured, and his father is dead. And my insides feel as if they'd tumble out of me, like that deer on the hill. My guts spilling onto the floor as I run upstairs. My hands shake as we drive to the hospital where Jax is being treated. Is he going to be okay? What happened? My dad is driving as my mom waits on hold with the hospital trying to get more information. You know everything I know right now, sweetie. I don't believe her. They always know more than they say. How can Mr. Lux be dead? And what's going to happen to Jax? He's only 16. He can't be alone. He's been gone for months on Castrodomus training. He was supposed to come home in a few days for winter break. We were supposed to go flying together. This wasn't supposed to happen. The moment my dad parks, I sprint out of the car and into the hospital. "I need to see Jackson Lux," I tell the nurse at the front desk. She purses her lips at me. "And who might you be?" My mom steps up behind me. "Family. We are his legal guardians," she says, tapping her e-glass. The nurse's computer beeps and she looks down in surprise, then looks back up with a softened expression. "Of course, Ms. Knight, Mr. Knight. Follow me." I pretend I'm included and follow along with my parents to a private wing of the hospital. My heart pounds erratically, fluctuating dangerously between beats. As we walk, I hear the nurse answering my mom's questions. "They were in a car accident," she says. "Mr. Lux died at the scene. His son was seriously injured and flown in for treatment." When we arrive at his hospital room, I pause and rest a clammy hand on the doorframe. This is Jax. My Jax. I take a deep breath and step in. The room is too bright, with fluorescent lights casting off the white room in a garish frame. The room smells like antiseptic and infection. The e-screen is muted but displays clips of news reports showing the efforts to eradicate the last of the Nephilim. 3 years since the war ended, but we are still at war. We will always be at war. Humans were not bred for peace. I finally pull my eyes to the bed. Jax is laying there, his eyes closed, his face all hard lines and pale skin. His arm is in a sling and he is hooked up to IVs. One side of his face is littered with cuts and bruises. I rush to his side and take his good hand. "Jax!" The nurse is about to scold me, but my mom lays a hand on her arm. "She's his best friend," my mom says. Jax slowly opens his eyes. "Blue," Evie reminds me, as if I'd ever forget. When he sees my face, he gives me the shadow of a smile. "Star," he says. His voice is thick and filled with the effects of his medicine. "Jax," I say again, relief pouring through me. "I'm so sorry." He squeezes my hand. "Me too." There's another layer to his words that I don't understand. But he's just lost his father. I don't expect him to return to normal right away. But he would never return to normal. And neither would I. A few days later, Jax comes to live with us. The same day as his father's funeral pyre. My father clears out his office to give Jax his own room, even though I offered to share. "That wouldn't be appropriate," he tells me as I help him move a bed into the room. "Why not? He's like a brother." "But he's not your brother, and you are both teenagers." I roll my eyes at him. Nothing would ever happen between me and Jax. We're family. But we set up his room and pick him up from the hospital. I put up some of my order posters in his room, and I hang the model airplane he gave me at my 10th birthday over his desk. I also insist on being the one to pack up his belongings and bring them to our house. It's a more painful process than I imagined, seeing remnants of his life with his father. "What will happen to their house?" I ask. "He will probably sell it," my dad says. We pick Jax up that afternoon, and he is quiet on the drive home. I've never seen him this serious, this distant. I try to give him space, knowing he must be going through more than I can imagine. It's hard. Every part of me wants to make him better, but I can't. Instead, I let him hold my hand when he reaches for it, and we sit in the back seat during the 2-hour drive, sharing the silence together. It's winter and the roads are tricky. The drive feels dangerous. An ice-covered death trap waiting to kill us like it did his father. I still don't know the details of the accident. Where were they? Were they heading home? How did it happen? These questions stay locked in me. I wouldn't put Jax through the pain of reliving his trauma to satisfy my own curiosities. We are in his new room, sitting side by side on his bed, when he finally speaks. He reaches for my hand and rubs his thumb over the scar left by the apex.
"Everything changed that day,"
he says. I nod. We never talk about them. He looks into my eyes.
"I thought I would lose you then. You shouldn't have lived. They sent you home to die. No one believed you would make it. But I did. I knew you would. You're strong. Stronger than anyone knows. Strong enough for what's ahead."
His eyes get a faraway look, and I drop my eyes to the jagged scar I will always carry with me. What does he know about life that I don't? What have the last few years or days taught him that I have yet to learn? I rest my head on his shoulder, and he sighs.
"We are both harder. Older than we should have to be,"
he says. We live in a world that hardens people, I remind him. We are like calloused feet. If we walked through life with smooth skin, we'd tear apart our flesh. We need the hardness to survive.
"Since when did 13-year-olds get this wise?"
he asks, smiling. The smile fades quickly. He kisses the top of my head and stands.
"You're right. It's necessary. I just hope it's worth it."
I stand and hold out my hand. It's time. He shakes his head.
"I'll meet you down there in a bit. I need a minute alone."
I nod and walk out, the door clicking closed behind me. Mr. Lux's body is outside, and my parents have set up the funeral pyre far enough away from the house to be safe. I stand a distance away, looking at the body of the man I knew as he rests on top of wood and cloth. I cross my arms over my chest and shiver in the cold. Icicles are forming on the wood. Soon fire will burn through it all, leaving nothing but dust. After half an hour of waiting in the cold, I creep back into the house to find out where everyone is. I hear arguing upstairs. Jax is yelling at my parents. He's never raised his voice to them. They both sound patient but earnest. I can't hear everything they're saying, but Jax is angry. He doesn't want to attend the pyre. I can't say this shocks me. He's grieving. He's hurt. This can't be easy. I want to tell my parents to leave him alone, to let him have his space, but maybe they know more than me in this. Maybe he needs to say his goodbyes and have closure, even if he doesn't want it. I go back outside, convinced I'm still the outsider in my own life, living in the shadows of secrets others have created. The three of them eventually join me outside. Jax stands to the side, at a distance, clearly unhappy to be there. My father says a few words about the man we've known my whole life, and then he sets the fire. It will burn through the night until nothing remains. It is customary for the immediate family to stand witness until the burning is done, and so we do. I stay for Jax, but also for Mr. Lux, who treated me like his own child, as badly as he treated Jax, but also as well. He's never been the same since his wife died, I was told. That might tug at my heartstrings more if he hadn't been such a biter to his son. The moment the last ember is extinguished, Jax turns and leaves, slamming the door on the way to his room. I look over at my parents, who are frowning and holding each other. My face feels like ice and I can't move my fingers, but I don't rush back in the house. Instead, I watch the dust swirl in the early morning breeze. From ashes we are made, to ashes we return. Chapter 7. The Test. 5 years of training, and I am still the girl who stood by Jax as we watched his father burn. But now I am also the near woman who is ready to make her own mark. 5 years. I will turn 18 soon. I will test for my pilot's license. I will embark on a new chapter of my life. 5 years of flying, of hacking, of hunting and tracking, of chess and strategy, of learning Latin and reading everything I can about the orders, our history, the ancient history before the cataclysm, back when the times were divided by BC and AD. Back when my kingdom of sky was actually divided into states in a government known as a democracy. Though from what I've been able to find out about this time, it doesn't sound like it was very democratic towards the end. It seemed even then the strong and rich wanted to control the minds and hearts of the rest and control their religion, their freedoms, their choices. At least we do it in the open, not slyly under the guise of freedom. Though I wish we had more benevolent monarchs. Jax and I haven't seen a lot of each other in the last few years, not since he was accepted into the Teutonic Domus. Of course I'm not surprised. The only thing surprising is that he is not allowed in the orders as a knight. If he were a pat, he would be. Why has no one adopted him and made him a knight? It makes no sense to me. I asked him once if he was doing what he could to find a patrician family to sponsor him, but he shrugged it off and said he was happy where he was. I don't accept that. I'm applying to the Teutonic Domus Air Force Division. I am going to become a pilot and find a way into the orders, where I can make a real difference. For 5 years I have honed myself into the best weapon I can. Soon I will aim this weapon at the one man I have been hunting since I was 10 years old. Soon I will find a way to take down Apex and his organization. Soon I will be the arrow to pierce his heart. The day before my 18th birthday, I listen to the news, and I hear how the Shadow of Rome killed an Inquisitor. Volume level 6, I tell our e-screen. The volume increases and a well-dressed newscaster gives a half smile, the kind that says, "I'm sympathetic but also beautiful," as she describes the failed attack on Vatican City. The Shadow of Rome, a leader of Zenith rebels, struck a blow against the orders when she used her pyromatics to kill an Inquisitor. But fear not, for she has now been captured. Her execution is scheduled for the coming week at the Fortuna Festival. Looks like she's not lucky this year. I turn the e-screen off, shaking my head. The Nephilim were eradicated years ago, but still there is fighting. Will the world ever change? I am just about to leave when I hear my parents coming in the front door. They are arguing. They've been arguing more than usual lately, and it saddens me. Something happened when Mr. Lux died. Something changed in all of us, and I still haven't figured out what. This argument is about me. I duck around the corner and lean against the wall, stilling my breath so they don't hear me. "She needs to know the truth," my mom says. "She needs to be protected," my dad counters. My mom sighs. "We have protected her, Marcus, but we've also taught and trained her. Now we have to give her the choice. She needs to know her heritage." "And what if they find out? What if they find out the whole truth? Then what?" he asks. "Then we protect her with our lives." Her words have finality to them, and I shiver. My dad is silent for a moment. When he speaks, it's so softly I almost can't hear the words. "We will tell her, but let's wait until after her birthday. This time of year is hard enough for her as it is, and she has her vision test soon. Let's wait until after that. Deal?" "Deal. But we will tell her everything. No more secrets. No more secrets." They enter the room and smile at me. I want to ask them about their secrets, but I fear an argument. I wish I had been braver. Maybe it would have saved us all. On the day of my birth, I walk into the backyard and pick the freshest flowers I can find, slipping them into a vase. My dad watches from our porch as I walk down the old road, heading toward the house of old friends. When Mrs. Kinrade opens the door, her eyes are clear. She stopped drinking and using the day her husband sold their daughters to Apex. A few weeks later, her husband died of mysterious circumstances. The news reported it was likely the result of gambling debts. Looks like he didn't pay blackjack in time. Pity. Mrs. Kinrade opens the door to me and I step in. It smells clean and is tidy, if old. This is the home Ella and Brooke should have had.
Can I offer you tea, Scarlett?
I shake my head. I have to get home soon, but I wanted to bring you these. She accepts the flowers and places them on a fireplace between pictures of the two girls. My throat thickens at the sight of their young faces. There's a picture there of the four of us as well. Ella, Brooke, me, and Jax. We were their only friends. They were our only friends.
You don't have to keep bringing me flowers, dear girl,
she says kindly. She felt guilty for many years. I could see it in her eyes each time I came. I know she still blames herself, but she's also trying to live. I admire that. I know I don't, but I want to. Someday, we will find them. I've been vowing that to her for 8 years, and I still mean every word. She reaches for my hand.
I know you will. If anyone can, it's you.
She doesn't know what I can do, but maybe she sees it in my eyes. I will find the Apex and destroy him, and if Ella and Brooke are still alive, I will bring them home. It happens at nightfall. My mom sleeps on the couch where she spent all day recovering from fever. Dad and I play chess by the fireplace. I'm a few moves from winning, though I've thought so before, only to be proven wrong. My dad takes my bishop, and the e-glass around his ear beeps. He flips it over his eye and studies the display.
I'm sorry, Scarlett,
he says,
but we'll have to finish later.
He walks upstairs. He's had calls like this before. My mother is usually awake and able to keep me from overhearing, but not today. I sneak up the stairs and stand outside my parents' room. The door is slightly open, cutting the dark hallway with a streak of light. I'm drawn closer, wondering why he didn't close the door as he always does. I peek inside. My dad paces his room, speaking. When he receives calls alone, he is often quiet. He is not quiet this time. His voice is full of urgency.
We don't have more time.
You believe someone has found you?
Responds a deeper, older voice. My father steps toward his desk and outside my view.
They left a message.
A threat?
Papers shuffle. He must be searching for something.
We need to move,
he says.
You've been safe for years. You are still safe.
Sir, I won't.
You will do what is necessary.
The shuffling stops. My father sighs.
What if they return?
He asks softly. The voice doesn't respond. My father chuckles. There's no joy in it.
You're willing to take the chance.
Do your duty,
says the voice. There is no more talking. The call has ended. Footsteps. Toward the door. I rush for the staircase and start walking down.
Scarlett!
My father stands in the doorway, his dark hair a mess, his eyes tired.
Did you?
He points inside his room, then shakes his head.
Never mind. You should get some rest. Your test is...
He looks around, distracted. Tomorrow, I say. He focuses back on me.
I know. Have you considered what I said?
I nod. When I pass, I'm joining the Teutonic Domus. He bites his lip.
You know why I don't want you to.
I know, Dad. He smiles, but he doesn't look happy.
Get some sleep.
I will. I walk downstairs and put out the fire. Then I go to bed, trying to block out the questions spinning in my mind. Tomorrow I will test to become a pilot. Tomorrow is the day my future is decided. After an hour, sleep claims me with dreams of flying. It doesn't last. I wake in the middle of the night from my father's screams. He has nightmares from his time in the war. The terrors come and go. Tonight, they plague him for hours. I can only make out 2 words through the sounds of pain.
Forgive me.
I've spent my life in shades of gray, and my future, my dream of becoming a pilot, rests on my ability to see past my 2-toned world and into the nuances of shades that will help me pass this test. I stand in the middle of Sky Airfield, surrounded by airplanes, some taxiing, some grounded, all of them beautiful. I long to be in the cockpit of one of them, to feel the power and thrill of controlling a 300,000-pound metal tube with wings amongst the clouds. Dr. Creighton stands beside me, his glasses perched on the end of his nose, clipboard in hand, as we wait for the controller in the air traffic control tower to flash the first light from the light guns. I will have to identify which lights are green and which are red. If I pass, I'll get an exemption from my colorblindness and will be allowed to start flight training. If I fail, my dreams will end. I will not fail. I've been dreaming of flying since I was a child, since the first time I went up in a plane with my dad. When my parents realized I was colorblind, they tried to dissuade me from this career path, but I refused to budge. When my parents told my doctor the severity and rarity of my condition, he insisted it would be a waste of time. I insisted we'd try. Somehow, some way, I would fly. Dr. Creighton, the FA medical examiner responsible for issuing me a second-class medical certificate, something I need before I can train for my pilot's license, texts someone with his e-glass and then looks up at me.
Miss Knight, are you ready to begin?
I take a deep breath, reining in my nerves, and nod. I can do this. I tried to make a case that these restrictions were outdated rules from a bygone era that lacked the technology of today. I have my e-glass, and Evie, the most advanced artificial intelligence. She guides me through this colored world I live in gray by telling me what I see. I'll never be a danger or risk when I fly. But they persist, convinced that I have to navigate the sky without the aid of AI, just in case we ever lose it. But we are as likely to lose the ability to fly, so I fail to see the sense in this. Still, I've been training without Evie for weeks to pass this one test. I'm ready. I nod and focus my sight on the horizon.
Very well.
He sighs, a resigned look of smug knowing on his face.
I want to kick his kneecaps, but that won't help me get his stamp of approval.
Instead, I close my eyes, control my breathing, and let my body relax. I imagine a world of color, a world denied to me since birth, and I will the lights in the sky to tell me their secrets, to give to me their truth so that I can see beyond the gray. When the first light flashes from the tower, I hesitate. Red or green? Red or green? Dr. Creighton clears his throat.
Red or green, Scarlet?
Red, I say, sure that the shades I see hint at what I've learned to be red. The next light gun flashes. Red. Then green. This one's different. I'm sure of it. Red again. 3 more greens. We continue this way for an eternity that's likely no more than 20 minutes. The heat from our warm summer beats down on me.
Sweat pools under my arms. I ignore it and stay focused. Finally, he texts someone again, then clasps his pen to the clipboard. Very well. We're finished. I'll message you with your results once I've spoken to the controller.
Can you give me any hint as to whether I did okay? I'm not above begging to stop this pain in my gut. My future hangs in the balance of his decision.
I'm afraid not.
For the first time, his brown eyes soften and he almost smiles.
I'll let you know soon, though.
The airport of Sky is huge, like a city of silver with tall buildings and long roads, people rushing to their destinations, lost in their e-glass displays. A street bot hums past me, and I'm not surprised they have those too. This place is bigger than my town, with security everywhere. Teutonic guards patrol the area, their white armor bulky and gleaming, and Inquisition officers randomly inspect civilians for drugs, weapons, or contraband. A group of them start searching a dark-haired man with a tag in his ear on the sidewalk. No surprise. Zeniths are always searched first. I keep my head down, hoping I'm not singled out next as I walk to Terminal 3. I pull my e-glass from my pocket and slip the small device around my ear. It turns on and Evie's voice speaks in her clipped British accent.
Hello, Scarlet. How did your test go?
No idea. Any chance you can hack into their system and get my results for me?
The hacking skills you've programmed me with are likely sufficient. I can try if you would like.
Tempting. So very tempting. But if they found out, I'd jeopardize everything. I'll just have to wait. I don't have the most current e-glass. Haven't upgraded since my parents first gave me the e-glass 3. So I can't give Evie the upgrade to do untraceable hacking. But I've made some of my own modifications, to the point that it can do more than any on the market today. Well, the legal market, anyway. I don't see my parents anywhere, but Jax comes out of the terminal carrying 2 cups of coffee. He smiles big. His eyes,
"They are blue,"
says Evie, locked on mine as he walks toward me. I accept the drink he hands me, relieved to finally see a friendly face.
How'd it go?
He asks. I don't know, I say between sips. He tousles my hair.
I'm sure you aced it. I've never seen you fail at anything you set your mind to.
Have you seen my parents? I ask, trying to steer the conversation elsewhere.
They're inside.
We enter the terminal, and I see my mom finishing up a call on her e-glass. She flips it back over her ear as my dad pulls her onto his lap.
Do you have a moment, Mrs. Knight?
She grins at him, in that private way they have.
A moment for what, good sir? My time is valuable.
He pulls her closer and caresses her face with his hand.
A moment for me to look upon the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
She runs her hand through his dark hair, smiling.
For that, I suppose I can indulge you.
She leans in and kisses him as I approach. When she sees me, she laughs and pulls away.
Promise me, Scarlet, you will find a man as loving as your father.
I don't often admit this, but I secretly enjoy how crazy in love my parents are. And it makes me happy seeing them cozy with each other, given their recent arguments. My dad comes up to me, arms outstretched for a hug.
How'd it go, Star?
Hard to tell, I say, stepping away so my mom can get her hug too. His smile doesn't waver at my own uncertainty.
Well, no matter what,
he says,
you'll find a way to fly.
My mom hugs me next, her face still soft and glowy from flirting with my dad.
I'm proud of you no matter what. I know you think I don't support you in this, but I do, honey. I just want you to be happy doing something you love. That's all I've ever wanted.
I know, Mom, I say. She and my dad make a handsome couple standing together. Him tall, dark, and rugged, her petite and pale like me. Jax pulls something out of his pocket and hands it to me.
I got you this gift as a good luck charm.
I take the small silver bag from him and open it. Inside is a silver pin of wings with an N in the middle. My initial! I look up into his handsome face, my heart full of unexpressed emotion. These are pilot wings, I say.
Whatever happens today, you're a pilot, Scarlet. Born and bred. You deserve your wings.
He takes the pin from me and attaches it to my tank top. I hug him hard and whisper into his ear, "Thank you." He understands more than anyone what this means to me. My parents leave the airport because they have work to do, but Jax and I stay and eat at a restaurant, sharing things we did while we've been apart. Jax beat one of his mentors in a sparring contest. I won a chess tournament. 2 hours later, he drives me home, and we say goodbye.
"I'll come over tonight," he says, smiling. "We can watch something."
He still lives in the house he inherited from his father. I know he hates it, but it's hard to get a different place. It took him years to save up for even a car. "See you," I say, entering my home as he drives away. Harsh voices carry through the kitchen and into the living room, and I drop my purse on the couch, my gift from Jax tucked inside. My parents are arguing again, and I shamelessly eavesdrop. My mom sounds frustrated, like she's repeated herself too many times already and doesn't want to say it again.
"We've been ordered to stay. They've found us, Violet."
My dad sounds equally frustrated, though he does his best to hide it. Of the three of us, he has the most patience. His words send a chill up my spine. Who's found us? And why would anyone be looking for us to begin with?
"We don't know that for sure,"
my mom says, walking out of the kitchen, my dad following. When her blue eyes land on me, she smiles, but it doesn't soften the anxiety on her face.
"Hi, honey. We didn't realize you were home."
"I just got in," I tell her, and I decide that it's time I knew exactly what was happening. "What's going on? Who's found us?" My dad, running his hands through his hair, looks at my mom, and she nods, her lips pressed into a thin line. Turning his attention back to me, he takes a breath.
"Come with me. I'll show you."
I remember the conversation I overheard earlier. "Why now?" I ask.
"Because..." His eyes are sad. "Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps we were wrong about everything."
Chapter 8. The Bunker. My dad walks toward the front door, and I follow, expecting my mom to come, but she reaches for the call button on her e-glass instead as she brushes aside a lock of blonde hair.
"If you're sure about this, I've got to tell the council we're leaving. I'll be right out."
My dad nods sharply once, then leads me outside and behind our house, toward the bunker. I'm about to find out the truth, and that knowledge sends pinpricks of nerves over my skin. I rub my hands together, forcing warmth back into them despite the heat of the early evening. "Dad, what's going on?"
"I wish I had time to tell you everything in a more gentle way. But the time for training is done. Now, we can only hope you learned everything you needed to."
With those cryptic words, my dad brushes aside leaves and branches and dirt that hide the door. He keeps his left hand clenched, and I realize he's holding something small and dark, but I can't tell what it is. Using his thumbprint, he unlocks the door and pulls it open, triggering an emergency light. Shadows dance beneath me as I follow my dad down the ladder. Once inside, I prepare myself for something extraordinary, but I'm disappointed to find that it's fairly typical looking. Canned foods, extra water, guns and ammo, 3 cots, blankets. All the survival basics. Why didn't you want me in here? I ask.
Because of what you might find,
he says. I pick up a can of beef stew and raise my eyebrow. Really? He chuckles, almost sounding like my normal dad.
Not that.
He opens an electrical panel and flips some of the switches.
Stand back,
he says. I take 2 steps back, and then my breath catches in my throat. The wall in front of us begins to open, revealing a secret room. There are weapons laid on tables to either side of us. More guns, but also swords, knives, a javelin. Weapons I recognize from books but have never seen in real life. Weapons that are polished, sharpened, and well cared for. Between the tables, to our right and left, are 2 large steel cases, each embossed with an intricate tree with the carving of a hand in the center. I tap my e-glass, setting it to record. I want to document whatever it is I'm about to discover. I watch, a stillness taking over my body, as my father walks to the case on the right and places his hand in the carving. It fits perfectly, and streams of light begin to form around his hand, filling the crevices of the carving like liquid, pooling out until it fills the whole tree. Once each leaf glows with the light, the case begins to unlock, clicking and moving through a series of internal gears until my father can pull the front panel open. Inside, silver, according to Evie, armor, polished to a high sheen, adorns a mannequin roughly my father's size and shape. The armor is covered with a design of elegant, stylized branches.
My old armor,
my father says, almost to himself. He slides his free hand over it with care, the other still clutching something hidden, then begins taking the armor off the mannequin. I stand there, dumbfounded, trying to fit this new information with what I know of my mild-mannered father who crunches numbers for a living. Dad, who are you, really? What are you, really? Because clearly you're not just an accountant. I stare at his armor as he releases another clasp on it. Unless the definition of businessware has changed. He chuckles again, and the familiarity of that sound helps me to breathe easier, if only just a little.
I am an accountant, Scarlet, but I wasn't always one. There's more to me than that.
His palm opens, revealing what he's been holding. A black ring, ancient-looking, with small spikes lining the inside. He sets it down on the table next to me and begins putting on the armor. I focus on the ring, fascinated by the piece of jewelry that looks more like a torture device. I touch it and cut myself, a pool of blood forming on my finger. Ouch! What on earth? My dad looks down at the ring.
A token of strife,
he says. What's that? I ask as I watch my dad transform into an armored warrior. He looks like a knight.
It means an old argument is to be settled, one way or another,
he says as he finishes putting on his armor. He picks up the ring again and looks at it, his eyes distant and sad. Then he slips it onto his finger and grimaces in pain as the spikes bite into his flesh. A small trickle of blood runs down his hand. I watch in shock. Why did you do that? He looks up, surprised, as if he forgot I was here.
Sometimes pain can serve as a reminder to finish what we start.
Thanks, Dad. That explains everything. He hooks the last piece of his armor, his helmet, to his side.
I'll explain more later, but right now, I need your help.
He walks to the very end of the room where one more case stands, this time with 2 handprints on it. He puts his hand in one, then looks at me.
Place your hand on it,
he says. I do as instructed,
and once again everything begins to glow, spreading over the design until all the crevices and carvings fill with light. The locks shift and move with the sound of old metal being woken up. I pull my hand away and stare at it. This was made for me?
No, for your mother, he says, but you're close enough genetically for it to work.
The case opens, revealing a solid piece of glass? I run a hand over it, marveling at the beauty, even in black and white. This isn't glass. It feels like crystal. A huge rectangular crystal box, taller than my dad, and several feet deep. It's carved with more intricate designs, and I can almost make out something within the crystal. What's in there?
A weapon, my dad says. One we must protect at all costs.
From under one of the tables he pulls out a furniture dolly and places it at the base of the case, then switches a lever that lowers the crystal box out and onto the dolly. Neat trick, I say, and I realize my parents must have built all of this themselves.
We need to get this to the truck.
He puts his helmet on top of the weapon. I picture the entrance to our bunker, and imagine us trying to push this huge mass of crystal up to the surface. I'm surprised, not because it seems impossible, but because I don't doubt we'll succeed. I've always known I was different. I've always been stronger than others my age. I've always healed faster. I push, and he pulls, until we stand under the open door.
Climb out and wait for your mother, he says.
When I reach the top, she's already there. My dad has already pushed the crystal the rest of the way so that the top reaches the opening.
Ready?
He calls from below. Ready, my mom says, gripping it on the right side. Get the other side, Scarlet. There's a carved handle. I move to the other side and find the groove in the crystal where my hand fits.
On 3,
my dad says from below.
1, 2, 3!
I pull with everything in me. And, by the orders, the thing moves. A bit shocked that we actually moved it, I let go of my side, and the weapon slides back a few inches. My dad grunts, and my mom centers herself to grab both sides, her body draped over the top of the weapon as her muscles flex and she pulls the box out by herself. I scramble to help, belatedly, and assist in getting the tail end safely on the ground as my dad climbs the stairs with the dolly. I knew we would succeed, but I'm still amazed at what we just accomplished. She doesn't even look at me, just helps my dad get it on the dolly again. Like all of this is totally normal. She looks at my dad with a serious expression.
Are you sure?
He nods.
They will come.
She holds his gaze for a long moment, then nods as well.
Okay then, let's hurry.
As we get the crystal to the truck, my mom looks at me, a frown on her face.
I'm sorry, honey. You weren't supposed to find out this way.
What have I actually found out? Was I ever supposed to find out? She bites her lip.
I have to go back to the bunker for my armor. Let's get this in the truck quickly.
I throw open the back of our truck, which resembles a small moving van. My parents make short work of getting the weapon into the truck while I watch and wonder. Who are we protecting this from? I ask. My dad looks down at his horrible ring, the token of strife.
An old friend.
I'm about to ask more when the crack of thunder fills the sky. All three of us look up. The clouds catch the rays of the setting sun, bursting with the colors of the retreating day. But then they change, shifting, spinning like a whirlpool in the air, forming a funnel.
They're here,
my dad says, his voice too calm, too quiet, too controlled. Because I can sense that whoever they are It's bad. Really bad. And my heart skips a beat, shifting and bumping erratically in my chest. But I can't pull my eyes away from the sky as the center of the whirlpool lights up and a beam of golden light blasts down into the field beside our house. Even without Evie whispering the colors in my ear, I know. The golden light of it burns into my soul. And then a figure emerges from the light, clad in shining golden armor, holding a sword in the sky like an avenging hero. No, not a hero. As the golden wings unfurl, as the light brightens and radiates around the figure, I see the truth. Not a hero. A Nephilim. Chapter 9. Checkmate. The Nephilim emerges from the beam of light, and others follow. They wear similar armor, but they don't have wings or a sword. Instead, they march toward us with long silver guns in their hands. Guns that weren't made by humans. Guns I've never seen before. I stand in shock. Nephilim don't exist anymore. They were exterminated during the war. And this one, I've never seen anything like it. Not even in news clips and videos. The wings are bigger, brighter, more glorious than anything I've ever seen or imagined. My dad moves to stand in front of me and my mother.
Go! Now! I'll hold them off!
My mother looks at my dad, her face filled with such sorrow it chokes my heart. It's the look of someone saying goodbye. Forever. I turn back to my dad. If you're staying, I'm staying. The Nephilim and soldiers are still a distance away, trudging through the overgrown grass that surrounds our house. But they'll be here soon enough. My dad grips my shoulders as he faces me. His torture ring digs into my skin.
We can't win this, my little star.
I want to argue, but with a tear trying to escape his dark eyes, I can't.
It's too late for that, he continues. Get the weapon to safety. Don't let this be for nothing.
He makes eye contact with my mother one more time, then reaches for her hand. She runs into his arms with a sharp cry. He kisses her once, whispers something in her ear, and then turns away.
Go!
He moves quickly, inhumanly fast, as his armor begins to glow blue, the carvings lighting up. He dashes around the soldiers, avoiding the gunfire that comes out of their weapons like streams of flame, cutting them down one by one with his sword. He fights the way I saw Myrden fight, but even faster, more precise. He fights like a knight of legend. The Nephilim hovers over our field, watching the carnage.
Scarlet, get in and close the door!
My mother is in the front seat of the truck. I move as if fire runs in my veins, jumping into the back of the truck, next to the weapon.
Don't let this be for nothing,
he'd said. My stomach clenches. By this he meant his death. I watch as he continues to fight soldier after soldier. As he kills each one, a new one pours from the portal. Hope plants itself in my heart. My dad can win this. He can. Finally, he faces the Nephilim, who moves away from the bright, golden. Thanks, Evie, I get it. Everything's golden. Light. The portal shimmers and fades the closer the Nephilim comes to my father.
Let us end this,
my father says, holding his sword forward. I thought my father moved fast. But the Nephilim turns into a blur, moving at speeds the human eye can't even hold on to. Before my dad can react, the Nephilim slams a giant fist into the side of his face, knocking off his helmet. I feel the blow in my own body, or at least that's what it seems like. My dad flies backward, toward me, smashing into the ground below me. Half his face is torn to shreds. Broken, blood pouring out of flesh and bone. I swallow my own bile, tears sliding down my cheeks. The truck lurches forward, and I grip the crystal box to keep from falling out. My mom is leaving. Without my dad. I look down at him again and see his chest rise and fall. Slowly, painfully. He is still alive. "Scarlet, close the door!" My mother sounds desperate with fear. But I can't be the good girl right now, doing what I'm told, following the commands of others. I can't blindly obey. Not when my father is dying and needs my help. It seems hopeless, that much is true. A memory, unbidden, comes to me, of playing chess with my dad. His dark hair falling in his eyes as he moved the chess pieces around the board. I'd lost everything but my king. He still had an army. "I give up," I told him. "You win." My dad smiled. "It's not over. If you persist, you can still tie the game. If you're left with no moves, then it's a stalemate. One can triumph over many, as long as she's too stubborn to lose." His grin was infectious, and I smiled back at him. And I didn't give up. I used my one last piece on the board to tie the game. As the truck moves again, I know I have to make a choice. Leave with my mother, or stay and help my dad. I jump off the truck. Maybe I can't win against the Angel of Death, but I can at least tie the game. One piece can still stop this. I run to my father and fall to my knees over his body just as the Nephilim arrives in a flurry of movement and rushing air. The Nephilim raises a glowing sword and lets it fall over my father's throat. One cut, and he will die. I play the only move I have left to play. I hold out my hands and grab the blade in midair. Chapter 10. Gray Blood. Pain. Agonizing pain. My attention flickers for a moment as I wait for the sword to slice through my body like warm butter. But the Nephilim freezes, as if in shock. I hold the blade as it cuts through flesh, hitting bone, as blood covers me, as pain tears a new hole in me. I hold the blade. This monster will not take my father from me. I know I can't last long, that I have to do something before my hands give way to the bitterly sharp steel. Everything happens in a breath. I let go with one hand and try to grab my father's sword, but the Nephilim lifts a powerful armored leg and kicks me in the gut. All the air in my body rushes out in one near-fatal whoosh. My lungs crack, and I fly into the night like a broken doll, limp and useless. My body crashes to the hard dirt ground, and I tumble across the field. I struggle to catch my breath, to regain my vision, to stay alive. Through a haze, I see the Nephilim 10 meters away, soaring toward me with wings ablaze, swords smeared with my blood. I can't move, can't think. I have no pieces left to play. I choke on my own blood as I prepare for death, knowing I failed my father. But before the Nephilim can reach me, our truck crashes into it. The sound of metal crunching fills my head. My vision blurs again, reality fading in and out. My mother. She came back. She could have left, could have saved herself, protected the weapon. But she came back. I want to scream at her to leave, that Dad was right. We can't win this one. It's too late. But she exits the truck, her small body coiled and ready to strike. She looks at me, her eyes moist.
Run! Scarlet, you have to find a way to run. I'll distract them. I love you.
I try to sit up, to stop her, to tell her we can leave together. But a wave of dizziness and pain sends my mind tumbling into the past. Another time, another place, a hot pipe falling toward me. I was little, just a girl. My mother pushed me out of the way and the pipe hit her instead. She carries the scar to this day. She calls it the scar of a mother's love. And now my mother will sacrifice her life to save mine. Just as my father had. My mother runs toward the Nephilim. I wait in horror to see her cut down by that bloody sword, her petite frame impaled upon it. But she surprises me, fighting with a speed and ferocity I didn't know she possessed. Still, she won't last against the Nephilim. I have to find a way to help. My eyes fall on a dead soldier clutching his otherworldly gun. I stand, legs shaky, everything on my body hurting so much the pain almost takes on a new form, as if I'm a ball of pain and nothing more. I embrace it, let it fuel me as I take a step, then two, faster, until I'm stumble running toward the gun. I grab it with my torn and shredded hands. It slips from them, the blood giving me no grip. Using my shirt, I wipe my hands, flinching as tissue pushes out of the cuts in my flesh, as my bones poke out. I pick up the gun again, trying to determine if it has a safety. When I discover nothing, I aim the muzzle at the Nephilim, ready to fire. I pull the trigger. Nothing. I flip my e-glass over my eye. Evie, can you identify this gun? She scans it, and the image of a red X appears.
I'm sorry, Scarlet, but nothing like this exists.
Well, obviously that's not true, since I'm holding the thing in my hands. The Nephilim roars with the sound that shakes the heavens and grabs my mother, smashing her against the truck. A loud crack rings through the air, and her body falls limply to the ground. She doesn't move. There's no rise and fall to her chest. I shake the gun, my rage consuming me as I will it to work. I aim again and pull the trigger. It spits out fire and something else, a bullet that blazes into the Nephilim, knocking it to the ground. The creature looks into the sky, and another whirlpool forms, bringing down a new wave of soldiers. Will this never end? Evie, search all databases for Nephilim weaknesses. As you wish, she says. I know Nephilim are born of human and angel blood, though no angel has been seen on Earth in many hundreds of years. Since biblical times, really. They're almost myth. If not for the Nephilim, and the angel technology we've acquired through them, I'm not sure anyone would still believe in angels. A stream of information flickers in my e-glass, none of it helpful. Gun in broken hands, I limp to the truck, knowing I only have one chance of living through this night and killing these monsters. My mom's body lays on the ground, so still, so pale. I can't look at her, can't process the loss of her just yet. I have to act, have to keep my head. Because I was wrong. I'm not out of moves, not out of pieces to play. I have one last move, and I have to use it now. The crystallized weapon is still in the truck. I run my hand over it, trying to find some way of opening it, using it. I find nothing. The soldiers move closer to me. They'll be here in moments, and I'll be dead. Out of all ideas, I hold my gun up and aim it at the crystal case. I fire once. The crystal cracks. One small line that runs its blemish through the beautiful carvings. I wait. Nothing else happens.
The soldiers reach me. They aim their guns and fire before I can even turn around. I thought I couldn't feel more pain, that I'd maxed out the human capacity to endure. I was wrong. The bullet of fire enters my body and moves through me, leaving a trail of burning agony in its wake. I slump over the crystal box, my blood seeping out of me, staining the opaque quartz. Red. Scarlet. Evie whispers the color of my own name into my ear as I slowly die. My last vision is of scarlet blood, still just gray to me, spreading into the cracks, into the intricate carvings that decorate the encasement. It almost seems to glow, and I smile and close my eyes as the crystal shatters and darkness takes me. Chapter 11. Token of Strife. I should be dead. That's my first thought as consciousness forces itself onto me. I know I'm not dead because of the smell. I smell like blood and sweat and fear. Surely the afterlife doesn't smell so very human. I peel my eyes open and am relieved to find that my head doesn't explode in pain. Relieved and confused. I look at my hands. Though not completely healed, I can no longer see bone. My body is healing itself at an alarming rate, unusual even for me, and I've always healed fast. I feel for the hole in my chest and find only the remnants of a wound, still open, still bleeding, but not piercing through my body. On top of my chest I find the bullet that had once been inside me. Somehow it was pushed out. I brush it off me as fuzzy memories dance in my mind. Of my blood filling the crevices of the crystal. Of it cracking. Of something else. Something inside. My blood! I look at my shirt and gasp. My blood! My red blood! Scarlet blood. I'm covered in it. Covered in red. Evie, you there? Nothing. While I've survived, my e-glass hasn't. But I don't need her voice to tell me the colors. I can see them. I can see in color. The white interior of the truck, the clear brilliance of the now broken and empty crystal box, the lines of crimson that fill the design, my blue sneakers with dark red blood drying on them, the pale cream color of my skin. It's dizzying, the nuances of color all around me. Everything also smells stronger, sharper, more. I shake my head and stand, grateful I have balance and can walk. I need time to catch up to whatever my body is doing, but not now. Blinking, adjusting to so many new spectrums of sensory overload, I grabbed the gun lying next to me, and then paused to examine the crystal box that now stands open. A crack runs through it, an empty hollow where the weapon had once been. Mist rises from within and smells like something wet that's been burned. I crawl out of the truck, gun in hand, and press my e-glass again. Still nothing. I take it off my ear, slip the memory chip out of it, and leave the e-glass in the truck. It's beyond repair, but I can hopefully retrieve something from the chip later, so I stick it in my shoe. Whatever happens tonight, I want to keep this with me. It's my only evidence. My only clue. Another memory slides back into my mind, unclear and full of shadows. A man in black leaning over me. And someone fighting. Around the truck lay all the soldiers who attacked me. Dead. I didn't do this. Someone's been here. I don't know how long I've been unconscious, but the sun has fully set, and to my right a weeping willow blazes with fire. I remember planting the seed with my father. He told me we'd have our whole lives to watch it grow. But his life has been cut short. Grief grips my heart, and I don't see the soldier still alive until it's too late. He grabs me, knocking the gun out of my hand and throwing me to the ground next to the bodies of my parents. Someone moved them. Someone laid them together. I stare at their lifeless forms, but it doesn't seem real. None of it could possibly be real. They look fake, like Halloween props gruesomely arranged for the most fright. But I know. In my heart, I know this is not a dream. This is not fake. I grip my father's hand, a sob breaking free from my throat. His ring, the token of strife, digs into my still wounded flesh. I pull it off his finger and clutch it to my chest. The soldier holds a gun to me while he speaks to someone through an e-glass in a language I don't understand. I know I will die, and, despite what my father taught me, I can't see another move in this horrible, bloody game. I just want to lay there with them. Die with them. The grief is too much. The pain of their loss too big to feel fully. My heart hurts more than any injury I've ever sustained. So I lay there, and I wait for the soldier to kill me. But as I look at my mother, I remember her sacrifice, how she wanted me to live. She gave her life so I would live. And I remember stories my father used to tell me about knights. As a little girl, I didn't dress in princess costumes and play with dolls. I dressed as a knight and saved worlds. My father talked to me about how they could be dangerous when they abused their power, but they could also be great. He never told me he was a knight himself. He and my mother. Why hadn't he told me? In the end, they were both heroes who died for me, and I will not let their sacrifice be in vain. With a renewed will to live, I raise my head, sit up, and face the soldier who is poised to kill me. I have no plan. No knight to save me. He holds his gun to my head and prepares to squeeze the trigger. I leap up and grab him, pushing his gun away as I hold onto his arms. A wave of heat pulses through me. My head swims with double images. Power swells in me like a hungry fire. The soldier freezes, staring at me. And I'm in his mind, seeing myself through his eyes. This bruised, bloody, beaten girl with torn clothes and dead parents. I feel his loathing for not just me, but all of humanity, and our weakness and lowliness. And I see him again, in my eyes. It's as if I exist within us both, seeing us each through the eyes and heart of the other. Soldiers I hadn't noticed approach from behind him, likely to see what's going on with the captive. Everything in my mind jumbles together in that moment. Him, me, them, all of it. In fear, in a last-ditch effort to save myself, I raise the gun, his gun, and fire at the soldiers moving toward us. They drop to the ground, dead, and I fall back into my own body, hitting the ground with a thud, hands shaking, reality still fragmented by whatever I just did. The soldier before me, the one I controlled, turns and aims his gun at me. Then a sword impales him in the chest. I look up and into the eyes of the last person I expect to see tonight. Jax? Jax falls to his knees in front of me, the sword still clutched in his right hand, his jaw hard, face determined. He doesn't look shocked. He should look shocked.
Are you okay, Scarlet?
I don't know how to answer that. No, I'll never be okay again. But I'm alive. I'm not going to die from my injuries. That's probably what he wants to know. I give a brief nod. He glances at my parents' bodies, but keeps his face emotionless.
Do you know where the weapon is?
You know about that? I ask.
Yes, I know about everything. There's no time to explain. We have to get out of here. But first we've got to secure the weapon.
It's not there, I tell him. It's gone.
Show me,
he says. He helps me stand, and I lead him to the truck, where the crystal remains are still swimming in pools of my blood.
We have to go,
he says after a quick examination.
Now!
I can't leave them! I pull him back toward my house. We have to get my parents! His eyes aren't unkind, but they hold no room for sentiment either.
We don't have time. You're in danger. If we don't leave now, they will come back, and we'll both be dead.
As if cued by his words, lights once again appear in the sky. I can't be responsible for another death, for another life. We run toward my father's plane, and I try not to spare a glance at my parents' fallen forms, but I can't stop myself. As Jax preps the plane, I look at them one last time, lying together on the cold earth, their hearts forever stopped. I've never seen them in color while they were alive. They were always shades of gray to me. Now, in their death, I see the rich oak of my father's hair, the golden beauty of my mother's long braid. I just wish I could see their eyes. Just one last time. I wish I could look them in the eyes and tell them how much I love them. Jax nudges me toward the plane, and I clutch the token of strife in my hand, relishing the pain it causes. Their death will not be in vain. The inside of the plane smells like my dad. His cologne. A musky, minty scent that makes my eyes burn with unshed tears. I run my hand over the control panels. I know this plane better than I know my own bedroom. I've spent countless hours flying in it with my dad, learning what every light and button means. I can fly it myself, but everything inside me has gone numb. So I let Jax take the controls. I still have so many questions, so many things that don't make sense about this night. But I only have the voice for one. Where are we going? He doesn't take his eyes off the controls as we taxi down our short runway.
Castelviani.
So we're going to New York, the place where knights are trained. What's going on? Jax doesn't show any emotion.
Everything will be explained when we get there.
The plane leaves the ground, and my stomach drops. I've always loved this feeling, relished it. But tonight, there is no joy, not even in flight. I hug myself, trying to keep warm. Jax finally looks at me, his eyes softening.
I'm sorry, Scarlett. I'm so sorry. I can't tell you anything more. I'm not allowed. But I promise you'll understand soon. Can you trust me? Just for a little while longer?
His dark eyes plead with me, but my heart remains unmoved. I am too torn by fear and anger, by sadness and grief, by the whirlwind of events that has swept me away. My parents betrayed me, lied to me. I trust no one. But I can give him time. He's my link to discovering the truth. And if he doesn't give me what I want, I reach down and feel the bulge in my shoe, making sure the chip is still there. I have one other place to look for answers. I close my eyes, and the weight of the day smothers me in darkness. His back is to me, the tall man with broad shoulders, a black cloak billowing around him. Woods surround us, dark, foreboding, the trees towering over us with long shadows born of the night. He walks forward, and I run to him, but the woods stretch before me, putting him forever out of reach. The air around me is thick, heavy, coating my lungs, making it hard to breathe. Dead leaves fall from the trees as I run past them, catching the moonlight on their frail brown skin. The man before me stops. I run faster, knowing I must reach him, knowing he is important. But again the woods trick me. I trip and look down, expecting to find a root has caught my foot. It is not a root, but a hand, a skeletal hand attached to a decaying body. I scream, stumble forward, only to land on more dead things. I realize that what I thought were piles of leaves are piles of corpses, eyes forever open, staring at me with accusations unspoken but heard nonetheless. I keep running, trying to escape the death around me. I arrive in a clearing where the corpses form a hill of dead bodies. The man in black stands at the base. On top is a throne, a giant gleaming thing made of midnight, with a blood-red banner over it. Sitting on the throne is a little girl with a white lace dress, her long blonde hair parted into braids with white ribbon. She's playing with a giant glowing ball. Our eyes meet. She smiles, but something isn't right with that smile. Her teeth, 2 of them protrude. Too long, too sharp. She holds the white glowing ball out to me. The man, his back still turned to me, speaks, his voice filling the clearing. "Choose!" The girl's voice repeats. "Choose!" Together they chant, "Choose!" I don't understand. "Who are you?" I ask, but my voice is carried on the wind and dies before it reaches him. I run to the man, grip his shoulders, turn him to me. I wake with a start, my head still filled with the voices of that man and that girl. The plane hits the pavement of a runway. That's what woke me. We've landed. I look out the window at my first glimpse of Castle Viani. Chapter 12. Castle Viani. To understand me, you must understand the castle. It sits upon the eastern shore, a wall of faded white stone, and behind them, a city conjured in the dreams of children. The streets are wide and open as winter's fields, the buildings old and varied as autumn's leaves, the people bright and eager, always a smile upon them. They are merchants, workers, performers, for the castle holds all kinds of men, but above all, it holds knights. They are bigger than most men, not in weight or height, though of course some are, but in the way they carry themselves. They walk with a dancer's grace, and their eyes never look down. They move for no one, but when 2 knights come together, and then always one yields. In their eyes, you see, it is not an easy thing. These are not creatures made for bending. These are creatures for war. These are creatures like me. But they are also more, as if they are gods, and I made in their image. I want to be one of them, not because I crave power, but because I fear weakness. It is the way I have always been. I cannot be weak. The price is too high. When I first see the castle, I do not imagine it would ever be my home, for it is so old and grand, and I am so young and small.
For I am a plebe, and this is a place of old lords and high ladies, of pure men and rich men, of knights and princes, of patricians. When I dreamt I would study there, I had dreamt too big. For what do I know of politics? What do I know of ruling? After a moment, I realize it is my doubt speaking. I tell it to be quiet. I climb out of my father's plane, out of the last familiar piece of my life, and walk into a world that blends the past and the future into something new. There is a tower, draped in red banners, with a balcony amongst the clouds, looming over me. I see a glass elevator ride to the top, the people inside gawking at the people below. Jax sees me staring as we walk down the airstrip, the ground beneath us gleaming silver under a silver moon. "This castle was built in France," he says, answering the questions I have yet to ask. "It was transported here piece by piece." Why not just build something new? They say the building itself holds ancient magic. Strange things have been known to happen in the castle, though I suspect it is not magic behind them, but ATEC. I can't pull my focus from the world around me. I marvel at the colors, at how much I've missed with just Evie translating my black and white existence. I wish she were here to help me identify the different shades mixing before me. Reds, blues, oranges, and greens. They're dizzying, turning my stomach. But the feeling is worth the view. I wish more fiercely than anything I could share this with my parents. But I shoved the painful thought away. I'll pull it out when I'm finally alone and have a moment to break down. Because once I start crying, I fear I'll never stop. And there are still answers to uncover. "Where are we going?" I ask. My clothing has stuck to me with blood and sweat and dirt. My hair hangs in clumps around my sore, bruised head, the normal pale blonde stained red. But I hold my chest high, ignoring the glances of those around us. "We are going straight to the council. I tried to argue you needed rest first, but they want to talk to you. With the weapon missing, it's a matter of global security." I stare at Jax, the boy I grew up with, the boy I mowed lawns with as a child. His jaw is set in a hard line and he walks with purpose. He walks like a soldier. And he looks like a stranger. Why am I here? He stops and looks at me, and for a moment a flicker of the boy I knew flashes in his eyes.
"Because this is the only place you'll be safe, Scarlet."
He reaches for my hand and holds it.
"I failed your parents. I can't fail you too. I can't lose the last person I love."
Earlier today, those words would have brought me comfort. Now they fall at my feet like a dead thing. I say nothing and follow him through the parking structure to a black car with order plates. "You work for the orders?" I ask, not even surprised anymore.
"I'm a Teutonic Knight, a guardian, like my father was, once. I work for the 4 orders under the authority of the Pope."
Everything. All of it. My whole life has been a lie. "Your father didn't die in a car crash, did he?" I get into the car and slam the door shut. Jack starts the engine and pulls out.
"No, he didn't."
His face looks haunted, and I can tell he won't elaborate. So I don't ask for more. In this moment, as calloused as it sounds, I don't care about his father while my own father's body was left to rot on our lawn. "My parents were patricians," I say. It's not a question.
"Yes."
"And I'm—" The words don't come. For tonight, I only wish to be Scarlet Knight. I only wish to be the homeschooled plebe who lives with her parents in the kingdom of sky. I only wish that girl still lived. I say nothing more, and we begin to drive. The sights of the town blur past me. Storefronts and small homes with big yards, a downtown area with street vendors set up on cobblestone streets. Everglow lights line the walking paths, and a steel sculpture of a cross hovers over an intersection. We flew for 3 hours, and most shops are closed at this time of night. I reach up to tap on my e-glass, but remember it's not there. Jax catches my movement.
I'll pick you up a new one. I know you need it to help with colors.
That's not true anymore, but I know I can't tell him, though I don't know why. Thanks. I'll need it for other reasons, though. I'll need it to review the chip I have, and to keep tabs on the outside world. The people Jax works for would of course bug whatever device I get, but I can override that easily enough and make it my own. Bring my Evie back. I've spent too much time custom coding her to lose all that now. We drive onto Vianney Bridge, a drawbridge, currently open. It's the only path I see to the castle fortress, which is cut off from the walled city by a moat. It is much like a smaller version of the island, which is separated from the mainland by rivers. We pass through the giant open gates, covered in engravings of knights. The gray stone facade of the castle gleams in the moonlight with chips of obsidian. At the end of the moat, 2 guards stand to either side of the gate, dressed in light armor with a V crest on the right side of their chest and a Celtic cross on the left. Jax holds out his hand and shows them his ring, something I didn't notice him slip on. It has the crest of Teutonic knights, wings in red and black. They nod, and he ushers me into the castle courtyard. A gentle breeze blows the hair off my face, cooling my fevered skin as we walk down a path surrounded by trees and gardens.
This is where many students come to walk, hang out, read, or study,
he says. We only see 2 students this late at night. Both have on black cloaks with the V crest embossed in gold and silver thread on their chests and their back.
Those are initiates, he says. They'll receive their final uniforms when they're accepted by an order.
The 4 orders: Teutonic, Inquisition, Hospitaller, and Templar. What order were my parents? He looks at me, his eyes holding deep sadness.
Your parents were Templars.
Of course. Templars are the protectors and keepers of secrets, the inner circle that knows things no one else does. It's these secrets that killed my family. It's these secrets I have to unravel. Jax leads me into the castle, with high ceilings and walls covered in ancient paintings and tapestries depicting great battles. Torches light the hallways, but rather than fire, they contain a different kind of light, smokeless and blue rather than red. Angel light, old and new, ancient and modern, the past and the future. My body aches. I am tired and hungry, though when I think of food, nothing sounds remotely appetizing. A deep thirst digs a hole in my gut, but I ignore it. I study my hands, still cut, still bloody, but nowhere near as destroyed as they had been. I remember seeing my own bone protrude through the gashes. Now, though the wounds are deep enough to show flesh, they will heal. They are healing. We wind through passages in the castle and stop in front of a great wooden door. Jax holds out his hand, his eyes digging into mine.
I know I lied to you, Scarlet. I know you don't trust me right now, and that's okay. But please know that our relationship has never been a lie. My feelings for you, even the ones I haven't been able to express, they have never been a lie. I won't let anything happen to you. I swear it on my life.
I take his hand. What choice do I have? I have to believe the boy I grew up with is somewhere inside the soldier before me. I have to believe that something in my life has been real. I can't deal with the alternative. It hurts to hold his hand, but I don't pull away, and neither does he as we enter a large hall. 5 great stone seats form a semicircle above us. In the middle sits an old man with a long gray beard and gray hair. He wears silver glasses and carries a carved walking stick with a crystal globe on the top. His black robes hang from sharp shoulders, and he has the V symbol on one side of his chest and a red cross, the Templar symbol, on the other. Jax points to the woman to his right.
She's the head of Hospitaller.
The woman looks to be in her early 40s, Spanish, with cold, calculating dark eyes. Her A-line dark, straight hair frames her face sharply. Next to her sits a man with a hawk nose, dark, squinty eyes, and a smile that makes my skin crawl.
That's the head of the Inquisition, Jax whispers. Stay away from him if you can.
He doesn't need to tell me twice. To the left sits the head of the Teutonic Knights, a young-looking blonde woman who holds a sword and wears armor similar to the men at the drawbridge.
Next to her is the second Templar. The Chancellor in the middle is the head of Templar, but there must be 5 council members always, so his second acts as the 5th.
The Chancellor turns to look at me, and the council quiets down. To our left and right stands an unmoving line of Teutonic guards. They don't make me feel any safer.
"We bring this gathering to order,"
says the Chancellor with a commanding British accent.
"We have come to hear witness the testimony of Scarlet Knight on the death of Marcus and Violet Knight, and the theft of the weapon the knights were tasked to protect."
Jax steps forward.
"I have brought her as instructed,"
he says in a formal tone. The head of his order nods. "What's become of the weapon?" she asks, sitting forward on her chair. The Inquisition head gives her an irritated look.
"It is the Chancellor's job to inquire, Gabriella. Can you not go through one meeting without speaking out of turn?"
The Chancellor pounds his walking stick on the ground.
"Silence!"
He turns to the man.
"And it is also my job to correct anyone on this council who speaks out of turn. Ragathon."
Ragathon bows his head, but his eyes do not look contrite. The Chancellor turns his eyes to mine, and then they are all staring at me, each looking as if they will devour me with their questions.
"Tell us everything that happened tonight."
With the fewest words possible, I recount everything I can remember of the evening, editing out details I don't feel entirely comfortable sharing. The chip I took, shooting at the weapon, the man I vaguely remember seeing, the way I controlled that soldier and got him to kill the others.
"And what happened to the weapon?"
the Chancellor asks. "I don't know. I was injured and lost consciousness, as I said. When I woke, the crystal box was empty." Ragathon's head shoots up.
"The weapon was removed?"
"Yes." "Where did it go?" Gabriella asks. "I have no idea," I say truthfully. The head of Hospitaller, who has so far been silent, speaks. "Can you describe the exact details of the casing? What it looked like when you woke up? Anything you can remember, no matter how small or inconsequential it may seem?" I've already said everything I'm willing to. I didn't tell them about the blood, because I couldn't have lost that much blood and survived, and my current wounds won't account for the amount of bloodshed I saw. But they'll know if they have a team there.
I decide on the partial truth. There was blood everywhere. My blood. My parents' blood. Probably some blood from the soldiers my parents killed before dying. It was dark, so it was hard to tell. Ragathon scoffs. It's not that hard to see blood, even in the dark.
With all due respect, Jack says, Scarlet is colorblind. For her it would be hard to tell. She can't see any colors at all.
Ragathon ignores him and turns to the Chancellor.
With all due respect, Chancellor.
Though with the way his voice sneers, I don't hear any respect.
This does not add up. There's no way anyone could have penetrated the box. Nor could the Nephilim have returned. I do not think the girl is telling the full truth.
Up until this point, I've been mostly numb. I wanted to find out what happened to my parents, and I hoped that answering all their questions would accomplish that. It's becoming clear that's not the case, and I've had enough. Rage builds inside me, boiling up from the new holes in my heart. Before anyone can ask me another inane question, I speak, my voice strong, firm, commanding. I am not a girl, Ragathon. I am a woman with full agency and legal rights, and I do not appreciate being spoken to or about in this condescending manner. I make eye contact with each of the council members. As for the rest of you, I'm done answering your questions. I've told you everything I know. This morning, I thought I had a normal life and normal parents. Now, my parents are dead. I am standing here covered in their blood. I see the Chancellor flinch. I've been attacked, injured, beaten, and I've lost everything that mattered. I'm hungry and tired. I need a shower and time to mourn my parents and figure out what I'm going to do next. I don't owe you anything. I don't know any of you, and you don't know me. Whatever arrangement you had with my parents died with them. So unless you are taking me prisoner— The Chancellor raises his eyebrows at that, and I continue. And let me warn you, if that's the case, I will be seeking legal action against you and this school for condoning the capture and imprisonment of an innocent. I stare him down and continue. Then I insist on being taken somewhere I can shower, eat, sleep, and grieve. Alone. I can feel Jack stiffen next to me. A stunned silence fills the room, and I wait, sensing my life hangs in the balance. Then the Chancellor chuckles and tugs at his beard.
The girl, excuse me, the young woman is right. We've been treating our guest badly. We have enough information to start an investigation into this matter.
Ragathon interrupts. But I have more questions. The Chancellor holds up his staff.
We are done.
He looks at the other head, a challenge in his eyes, but Ragathon backs down.
Jax, please show Miss Knight to a room, and make sure she has all she needs to be comfortable.
His eyes fall on me again, a knowing look in them.
Miss Knight, please accept my condolences on the death of your parents. Whatever we can do to help bring their killers to justice, we will do.
I don't exhale until we leave the council room. My body goes limp, and I feel lightheaded and drained. Jax turns to me.
I've never seen anyone talk to them like that and live to tell the tale.
He has a look of wonder in his eyes, but also fear. Of me? Of them? I don't know, and honestly don't care much right now. But I do have one question that's nagging me. That man, the middle one, the Chancellor, who is he? Something about him tugs at my mind.
The way he looked at me. The way he laughed when I stood up to him. Jax's face is a study in neutrality.
He's your grandfather.
Chapter 13. Breaking Grief.
My grandfather? But he's dead. He died before I was born.
I have no grandparents left. My dad's parents died a few years apart when I was a child, though I never got to meet them because they lived overseas. My mom's mother died when she was a teenager, and her father, he died while she was pregnant with me.
When your parents went into hiding, they cut off most of their ties with the orders. That included your grandfather.
Jax leads me through the halls of the castle as we talk. Have I ever met him? I ask. He shakes his head, running a hand through his dark hair.
No, your parents went into hiding before you were born.
While Mom was pregnant with me. All she had left was her father, and she cut off their relationship to protect this weapon. Something occurs to me. If my parents went into hiding, do I even know their real names?
Yes. They were never hiding from anyone specific. More like keeping the weapon somewhere no one would look. There was a chance they would live as plebes for life, and since there are many people called Marcus and Violet and Knight, they insisted on keeping their true names. They told me so themselves. You know my real name as well. It's still Jackson Lux.
I sigh, grateful for some truth in my childhood. As students from different orders walk by, staring at me, I become keenly aware of my sorry physical state. I must look like I've survived a battlefield. I guess I have. It's late for them to be up, isn't it?
We have different training exercises that run throughout the day and night.
A tall girl with red hair and the mark of the Teutonics on her tunic stares at me as she walks by. Jax tugs at my hand as he glares at her, blue eyes narrowed.
Move along, pure man.
He speaks in high language. I've never heard him do so except in jest. But he is serious now, and his words are poised. The girl's mouth snaps shut, and she hurries off as Jax increases his speed, and I rush to catch up. We enter a large hall with couches, chairs, and tables scattered throughout, and a huge hearth roaring with a fire. Above it hangs a tapestry embroidered with the Teutonic Knight symbol. Only one student occupies the room, a long, lanky man reclining on a couch in one corner, a large leather book covering his face as he sleeps. Jax crosses the room and slaps his boot. The man jolts awake.
Get to bed, Saunders. You'll be useless to me tomorrow otherwise.
Yes, sir,
he says and scrambles out one of the doors, not even sparing a glance in my direction, which I appreciate.
You'll be given a room in the initiate's wing soon,
Jax tells me.
But for now, you can have my room. I'll sleep out here.
He leads me through the door on the east side of the hall and straight into a suite with a sitting area, a study area, and a bed. I see touches of the Jax I know in the room. His favorite baseball glove and ball sitting on his desk. A stack of comics I recognize from home. Jeans and t-shirts strewn about. Familiar pieces of a life that no longer exists for me. Mixed in with this are other items I've never seen. A sword with the Teutonic Knight symbol engraved on the pommel. A ring bearing the same mark. 2 sets of armor on dummies in the corner. One light and one heavy. Pieces of his life I never knew existed. Jax clears his throat and grabs a towel and some clothes from the closet.
I know these will be too big, but they're clean.
I accept them. The smell and feel so familiar to me. These are the sweats he always wore when we had movie nights at my house. When we'd fall asleep with the E-screen on, a bowl of popcorn between us, not waking until the next morning. The memory makes my eyes burn with the heat of unshed tears. Thank you, I say. He looks like he wants to say more, his face full of unspoken thoughts. I pause, waiting, but he just nods.
Help yourself to anything. I'll be back with some food.
He turns and leaves me standing alone in this half-strange, half-familiar space of memories. I walk to the bathroom and see my reflection for the first time, and tremble. It's not as bad as I thought. It's worse. I am bathed in blood. Not all of it is mine. Some of it belongs to my parents. I wait, expecting the pain to overtake me, but I buried it too deep for it to surface now. I pull out the token of strife from my pocket and the memory chip from my shoe, peel off my clothing, and drop the pile in the small wastebasket by the toilet. My hands are steady, numb. I look around for a place to hide my two treasures, settling on the box of tissues on the toilet. Turning to the mirror again, I stare at myself. My pale skin is covered in bruises, cuts, scrapes, and gashes. But the bullet wound I was most worried about has healed considerably. I realize this is the first time I've ever seen myself in color. I look